Iran has declared that it's on its way to an atomic bomb. Right now, we are caught between diplomacy and escalation, and the strategic trap between Washington and Tehran is beginning. Are the Revolutionary Guards preparing for the war to resume? Tehran is making it clear there will be no compromise over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is ready to return to war, and at the same time, Iran is equipping itself with hundreds of Chinese missiles. The Revolutionary Guards are expected to receive Chinese-made air defensive systems worth tens of millions of dollars. So, while Iran prepares for an all-out war, the United States is returning to the attack. And is a top-secret American emergency plan about to launch a deadly operation in the mountains of Iran. Today, we will bring you the possibility of extracting Iran's uranium using Rangers and SEAL forces. Israel is exposing a new front in the Middle East. A new Iranian proxy has emerged in our neighborhood, working together with the Houthis from Yemen. Everything that is known about the new drones attacking the Gulf states and also Israel. Iran wants full control over Hormuz and is throwing Oman down the stairs. And at the same time, Britain and France are not prepared at this stage to join the Trump administration's initiative to establish an international maritime task force in the Strait of Hormuz. And in the struggle against Iran and Russia in the Caspian Sea, Ukraine is building a broad front and signaling to Israel that it stands with us. Meanwhile, inside Iran, no water, no electricity, and a hungry military. The final hour of the regime is approaching. The Iranian deception is being exposed. Behind the panic, Tehran is heading towards its final summer. I'm Yair Pinto, and Mati Shoshani will be joining us by video. And at this very moment, he's standing on a high peak in Europe somewhere, climbing all day, bicycling, and enjoying his vacation. We're boots on the ground, bringing you all the truth about what's happening here in Israel, and also the truth about what's happening in our neighborhood, the Middle East. Today is July 29th, so let's begin. The relationship between the United States and Iran is at a historic boiling point. While technically efforts are still on their way to prevent a slide into an all-out war, in practice, a multi-front confrontation is taking place between the two countries that are fighting them. This struggle is unfolding on several fronts at the same time. The advancement of Iran's nuclear program, Tehran's support for the proxy organizations throughout the Middle East, and mutual attacks in the maritime and also the aerial arenas. The administration in Washington finds itself facing an especially complicated trap. On the one hand, the United States is committed to security of its allies in the region and to the promise that Iran will not obtain nuclear weapons. On the other hand, the American public and the leadership want to avoid another war in the Middle East as much as possible. The diplomatic option could delay the uranium enrichment if the sides return to existing agreements or formulate a new agreement. But critics argue that such a move would give Iran economic breathing room and bring it closer to the status of a nuclear threshold state. The relative calm that characterized the region in recent days was broken today, on Wednesday. The United States Central Command announced that the Revolutionary Guards had launched several ballistic missiles from Iran towards Jordan. The target, American forces that are stationed there. All of the Iranian missiles were successfully intercepted. Following the attack, the American officials said that they will pay for this. And at this same time, the United States military and Saudi forces attacked logistics sites belonging to pro-Iranian militias in Iraq overnight. According to the statement, the cells had been introduced by the Revolutionary Guards. They were instructed to attack American forces and also Saudi energy infrastructure. The militias in Iraq are reporting 8 people that were terminated. And according to the assessments, those same militias are also responsible for launching the drones that are intercepted in recent days by the IDF along Israel's eastern border. Before the attacks in Iraq, Saudi Arabia announced that its air defensive systems had intercepted and destroyed several unmanned aircrafts that attempted to strike all facilities in the country's eastern province. Meanwhile, Mohammad Marandi, who is close to the Iranian negotiating team, wrote on his X account, "Iran is completely prepared for war on all scales." At the same time, the Revolutionary Guards reported that they had attacked 3 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. This is after, according to them, the tankers ignored the warnings. The crisis in the Strait of Hormuz continues, and Iran is making it clear that, as far as it is concerned, there is no intention of returning to the situation that existed before the war. Tehran is explicitly saying that it is prepared to return to war if all of its demands are not accepted. And at the same time, the United States is accusing Iran of presenting unreasonable demands in the talks surrounding the future of the strait. And alongside all of this, Trump is deeply disappointed by the refusal of European countries to assist him. The United States Central Command, CENTCOM, announced early this morning that together with the Saudi military, we attacked targets belonging to pro-Iranian militias in eastern Iraq, in response to more than 30 drone attacks that are carried out over the past 72 hours against American forces and also Saudi energy infrastructure. Several hours earlier, the United States military announced that the Revolutionary Guards had launched several ballistic missiles towards an American base in Jordan. The statement said all of the Iranian missiles were successfully intercepted, and United States forces remain vigilant and continue to be on high alert. Officials in Jordan confirmed that 5 targets launched from Iran had been intercepted. The Revolutionary Guards also confirmed that their forces had attacked 3 oil tankers that, according to them, were sailing through a prohibited route in Hormuz. At this stage, it is unclear whether any damage was caused. And yesterday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with President Donald Trump. Contrary to the dark predictions of a confrontation and a rift between Netanyahu and Trump, the meeting actually went very well at the White House. It was focused and coordinated on practical issues. It was a working meeting with senior members of the American administration that were participating. The sides formulated a plan for the future. No demands were made for dramatic changes in Gaza, Lebanon, or Syria, and the shared objective remained at the center: preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. In addition, Netanyahu presented President Trump with new intelligence regarding developments at the Mountain of Pickaxe. Senior Israeli officials said that Jerusalem is identifying a very significant Iranian reconstruction process with the assistance of foreign countries. An American official said that the issue is also known based on internal United States information, not just Israeli intelligence. And earlier, Trump addressed the Iranian issue in an interview with Fox News and emphasized that the Mountain of the Pickaxe is not a major problem. But in the meantime, since the ceasefire that did not hold, the Revolutionary Guards have repeatedly rearmed, and now we are seeing the results. The President of the United States threatened that if Beijing or Moscow sold weapons to Tehran, it would be very bad for them. But according to reports, China intends to transfer up to 400 short-range air defensive systems to Iran. The deal is estimated at approximately $70 million. Yes, I'm serious about this. Tehran is expected to receive hundreds of Chinese-model shoulder-fired missiles worth approximately $70 million, with the goal of strengthening the protection of strategic facilities and also energy infrastructure. According to reports, Iran is expected to receive an initial shipment of hundreds of Chinese-made air defensive systems in the coming weeks. The deal includes between 300 and 400 shoulder-fired missiles of the QW-12 and FN-16 models, and its value is estimated at $60 to $70 million. The recent months of fighting exposed deficiencies in Tehran's ability to defend military facilities and also strategic infrastructure against advanced aircrafts and precision-guided munitions. The deal was signed with Zhongping Busheng International Investment, a Hong Kong company serving as an intermediary between Tehran and the Chinese supplier. Despite the detailed reports, the Chinese Foreign Ministry rejected the claims and said that they were baseless, while emphasizing that China is working to promote peace in this region. The deal which was exposed against the backdrop of the military confrontation with the United States, is being carried out through an intermediary in Hong Kong and includes mobile systems that are intended to intercept drones and also helicopters. The Pakistani military also strongly denied involvement in the supply route, and according to the original plan, the equipment is supposed to be shipped by air from Urumqi in western China and pass through Pakistan on its way to Iran. Look, I want to make something very clear. I know it sounds small, like shoulder-fired missiles, but their importance lies precisely in their ability and mobility. Unlike fixed air defensive batteries, which are exposed to attack, small teams can quickly transport the shoulder-fired missiles and position them near oil fields, power stations, and also military bases. It's a relatively simple system, but it can make things more difficult for an aircraft, for a helicopter, and for drones operating at low altitude. In addition to all of this, Russia is sending Iran 20 advanced Sukhoi aircrafts. Moscow has completed the production of the first batch of dozens of advanced fighter jets for Tehran as part of a massive deal worth billions. This is a dramatic move that is expected to change the face of the aerial warfare in the Middle East and could challenge our air forces in an unprecedented way. Iran activated its pro-Iranian militias in Iraq to attack Saudi Arabia's oil and also gas fields. In Israel, the assessment is growing that the 4 drones intercepted by the IDF in recent days over Mount Hermon and 3 more over the Dead Sea were all launched from Iraq, under the Iranian direction, of course. Tehran rejected Oman's proposal for regional management in Hormuz, thereby derailing talks that had been progressing towards a temporary solution. According to the Iranian demand, the entire entrance route through the strait and part of the exit route must be under the Iranian control. In recent weeks, Tehran has continued threatening the United States and countries supporting its war efforts. Now, following a Ukrainian attack against an Iranian weapons ship in the Caspian Sea over the weekend, Ukraine has also been added to that list. Iran's foreign ministry accused Kiev of attempting to expand the war in Ukraine and said that its approach towards Iran was hostile and completely irrational. The chairman of the National Security Committee in the Iranian parliament promised that this action would not go unanswered. He emphasized every attack against Iran has a price. For now, it appears that Kiev is refusing to alarm by those threats. They're not afraid. Relations with Iran were tense even before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. After Tehran became a major supplier of drones to the Russian military, the Ukrainians accuse Iran of direct involvement in the war against them. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky responded to the Iranian threats and said that Tehran had in fact already attacked Ukraine. It is now becoming clear that Iran considered launching a missile attack against the Ukrainian port city in response to Kiev's attack against an Iranian ship, but intense diplomatic efforts succeeded in calming the tensions, at least for now. So according to intelligence officials, any missile launch from Iran into Ukrainian territory could have led to a dramatic escalation and ignited a much broader war. And we will bring you the details very shortly. Relations between the United States, France, and Britain also continue to deteriorate. Britain and France are not prepared at this stage to join the Trump administration's initiative to establish an international maritime task force in the Strait of Hormuz. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth raised the idea in a conversation with his British counterpart, which focused on recruiting allies to strengthen the maritime security. So according to the European officials, one of the reasons for the hesitation is a sense of frustration with the Trump administration, which can update its allies in advance before beginning the attacks in Iran, but didn't. Therefore, they're not rushing to join another operation. And meanwhile, in the struggle against Iran and Russia in the Caspian Sea, Ukraine is building a broad front. Tehran and Moscow are trying to establish control over the Caspian Sea as a central route for transferring goods and weapons. Kiev is strengthening ties with Turkey and Azerbaijan, and the attack on the Iranian ship was intended to serve as a warning sign and also to signal to the United States that Ukraine is still needed in the broader campaign against the axis of evil. And today, as we approach the end, we will reveal dramatic details about a secret plan formulated by the Pentagon. This is an unprecedented contingency plan to send thousands of elite fighters with the goal of taking control through the force and fire of uranium stockpiles and radioactive materials, and preventing Tehran completely from completing its nuclear weapons project. It was also revealed that President Trump canceled the invasion at the last moment. All the details coming real soon, so stay with us. As I said, we have a great deal ahead of us. Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and Mati Shoshani is currently on vacation, but we have Ashlea Alex with us, and we're here on Boots on the Ground. We bring you the full truth about what's happening in Israel and about the war against the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. And just before we begin, I want to call on you to continue spreading the truth. Share our content with as many people as possible. Click on the subscribe button. And most importantly, do not forget to look for me, Yair Pinto, and for Mati Shoshani on our social media accounts to get a first-hand perspective on what it's like to live in Israel under this war. So, if you love TBN Israel and want to be part of what God is doing in this land, we have something special for you. Visit our official online store at shop.tbnisrael.com. There, you can find high-quality TBN Israel merchandise. By the way, like the shirt that I'm wearing, as you can see, I have all colors of this shirt, and I love them. You can find items that help you stay connected, share the message, and also support our mission of bringing truth, hope, and faith straight from Israel to the nations. So every purchase that you make helps strengthen our work here on the ground and allows us to continue reporting, teaching, and sharing what's happening in Israel from a biblical perspective. So, whether you're looking for a meaningful gift, something to wear that represents your faith, or a simple way to stand with Israel, we invite you to visit our store today. Go to shop.tbnisrael.com. That's shop.tbnisrael.com and be part of the mission. Less than 2 hours separated Iran's missile launch towards the American forces in Jordan from the joint American-Saudi strike package in eastern Iraq. Jordanian defenses intercepted 5 ballistic missiles, and American and also Saudi aircrafts then hit the logistics hubs, the weapons depots, and the militia positions that tried to carry out the attacks on behalf of Iran. Is this a contained exchange or the opening move in a new cycle of regional war? United States Central Command says that the strikes followed more than 30 drones attacks in 72 hours against the American forces and also Saudi energy infrastructure. The latest reported Iraqi casualty rose to at least 20 killed and 32 wounded, although figures from the militia-controlled areas can change very quickly. Iraq's government called an emergency security meeting because its territory is again being used as both a launch corridor and a battlefield. That corridor also matters to Israel. Israeli defense officials are examining whether 4 drones intercepted near Mount Hermon and 3 more near the Dead Sea were launched from Iraq under the Iranian direction. Israel has not announced a final conclusion. The aircraft were Iranian-made, carried warheads, and approached at low altitude along routes designed to reduce the radar exposure. A drone following valleys and terrain folds can force Jordan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia, and American forces as well, to coordinate amongst themselves within minutes. So it can reveal detection ranges, it can show the reaction times without the cost of a massive barrage. The militias do not need to hit every target to provide Iran with useful intelligence. Tehran is also rebuilding its air defenses with weapons that can move. Iran is expected to receive between 300 and 400 Chinese-made shoulder-fired systems, including QW-12 and FN-16 missiles. The deal is valued at approximately $60 to $70 million and was reportedly arranged through the Hong Kong intermediary. So the first shipment could arrive within weeks. The reported route begins in Urmamri in western China and continues through Pakistan, while planners are also examining less visible land routes. China says that the report is completely baseless, and Pakistan denies any route. The agreement has been described by sources familiar with the transcription not formally announced by the governments that were involved. So these infrared guided missiles are designed for low-flying aircrafts, helicopters, and drones. A small team can move a launcher, hide it near an oil field, power station, airbase, or nuclear facility, fire and relocate. They will not stop high-altitude bombers or stealth aircrafts, but they can complicate the helicopter missions, the drone reconnaissance, and the low-level approaches to sensitive targets. Russia is part of the same reconstruction efforts. Reports say that the first 20 Sukhoi Su-35 fighter jets intended for Iran have been completed, but remain in Russia while Iranian bases are adapted. Moscow and Tehran have not publicly confirmed the transfer. Even if the jets arrive, training, maintenance, weapons, and combat doctrine will take time, and the non-stealth Su-35 does not erase the advantage of the Israeli and the American fifth-generation aircrafts. And now we will go to Ashlea Alex to continue this report.
Thanks, Yair. The nuclear question is connected directly to the battle over the Strait of Hormuz. Oman proposed a regional management mechanism with voluntary payments for navigation services, environmental protection, and search and rescue operations. The model was inspired by cooperation in the Strait of Malacca and was designed to include Iran without recognizing Iranian ownership of an international passage. Tehran rejected that balance. Iranian officials demanded complete control over the inbound shipping lane and control over part of the outbound lane. They also made it clear that revenue is part of the objective. If Oman rejects the Iranian formula, Tehran says the strait can remain closed and fighting can resume. The Revolutionary Guards say 3 tankers were attacked or stopped after entering a route Iran had declared unsafe or illegal. The condition of the ships and crews has not been independently established. The purpose is still visible. Iran is trying to make commercial captains behave as though Tehran already has authority to issue routes, punish violations, and decide who may pass. Washington rejects compulsory transit fees and calls the Iranian demand unreasonable. Britain and France support freedom of navigation and previously expressed readiness to support a multinational mission. Current reports, however, indicate that they are not prepared to join an offensive operation or an immediate American-led patrol without a durable ceasefire, a clear legal mandate, and agreement on the mission. That hesitation gives Iran time, but not recognition. Shipping companies, insurers, and naval commanders still need a functioning corridor. The argument is not only about reopening the water, it's about whether the new system remains international or rewards Iran with permanent authority after it used force. The conflict is also spreading north into the Caspian Sea. Ukraine says it struck vessels involved in military cargo shipments connecting Iran and Russia. Iran says an Iranian commercial vessel was hit, killing 1 sailor and wounding another, and warned that the attack cannot go unanswered. Iran reportedly considered a limited ballistic missile strike against the Iranian Black Sea port, using a smaller warhead as a political message. Diplomatic contacts appear to have reduced the immediate danger, but the threat reveals how closely the wars are linked. Ukraine sees Iranian drones as weapons that have already killed Ukrainians. Iran sees attacks on the Caspian route as direct participation in the campaign against Tehran. Inside Iran, the regime is rebuilding military power while basic systems are under strain. Electricity shortages, water problems, pressure on fuel supplies, medicine shortages, and high inflation become more dangerous during the summer heat. They do not automatically bring down a government, but they consume money, reduce public patience, and make a long war harder to sustain. The pressure reaches the security establishment. The Revolutionary Guards receive priority, while regular forces, local officials, and lower-ranking personnel absorb more economic damage. That imbalance matters if protests expand, because the regime depends on those institutions to guard nuclear sites, protect infrastructure, suppress unrests, and keep military supply lines functioning. The latest White House working session included senior national security officials and kept the shared objective at the center, preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Washington and Jerusalem agree on that goal, but military success must still become enforceable rules. Inspections, control of enriched uranium, limits on reconstruction, and consequences for proxy attacks. Airstrikes can destroy equipment. They cannot alone decide who governs Hormuz, who controls the uranium underground, or whether Iraq remains an Iranian launch platform. Iran is rebuilding, testing the coalition, and threatening several fronts at once. But every new weapon and proxy attack also reveals how much pressure the regime is already carrying. Will the next move produce an agreement with enforceable limits, or force the United States and Israel to return to a much larger war? Back to you, Yair Pinto.
Thank you so much, Ashlea, for being with us and for this update. And to all of you, I call you to pray for the situation. This is a spiritual war. We need your help in praying for wisdom to our leaders, for the soldiers, for the people on the ground that suffer, and keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.